To our AAPI Heritage Month celebration marathon here at Games Done Quick Hotfix. I am your host for the rest of this broadcast, Etchy. I'll be hosting tomorrow evening as well. Limey will return tomorrow, nobody panic. Actually, is Limey returning tonight? Limey has a run later. Limey will return later, don't worry. Anyways, we have a lot of amazing runs still remaining both today and tomorrow. But before we get into that, I want to do one quick announcement. I just want to mention that if you have missed out on any of our Hotfix shows or past events, you can visit and subscribe at youtube.com/gamesdonequick. A lot of good content there. Plenty of speedrun action if you're missing anything after this broadcast. So before we get any further, I do want to introduce the one and only Sanjan. Sanjan, how are you doing?
Hello, Etchy. I'm doing great. So,
awesome.
Going to introduce myself real quick. So this is Chrono. This is the Radical Dreamers edition. This is the remaster of Chrono Cross put on PC. It was originally released on PlayStation. It's a sequel to Chrono Trigger. It's a really hype game. With me on my virtual couch is Super Handy, who's a really cool person and really good at the game.
Hello, everybody. Yep, as Sanjan said, hi, I'm Handy and a longtime runner of Chrono Cross.
All right, so time will start when I press confirm. I changed the name of Surge to S because one character letters are generally always faster. So without further ado, we're going to get into plenty of action and cutscenes. So on go, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Let's see who we're getting. Okay, it wasn't Korcha.
I'm not quitting this game if we get Korcha. I'm sorry. Yeah, so here we're coming up into a kind of sort of like actiony, almost like dreamlike sequence. The first character you see always there is like Surge and Kid, and then the third character that you get is random. So we got her. What's her name? I know she's like, I forgot her name, but I always like her character design. So
Mickey. Look, I think Mickey's good luck.
Level of okay.
Yeah, and so what just kind of happened there was for Sanjan is kind of how all of like the random encounters in the game, or most of the random encounters in the game work. None of them are going to be we don't work like other games where you just randomly get into an encounter by walking so many steps. All of the enemies are kind of shown to the player, and it's all about dodging them. Really, they can be very annoying, like they just were though.
Yeah, so the hitboxes on them can be like kind of weird. Generally, like you see like the little dark area, like generally that's like their hit range. I think some of it can vary based on the enemy's size. So sometimes, yeah, dodging can be hard, especially our fellow RPG jerk birds, RPG jerk bats, or what have you. So this was pretty smooth, not too bad.
Yeah, it looks like we got through without any hitches. That's nice. Marathon luck, or I feel like marathon luck is like usually a runner who never hits the bat. The bats find a way to hit you in a marathon.
That's what always happens. Yeah, so this is just like some kind of like introductory thing that you go through. Since we skipped like pretty much sort of like give you a small introduction to the combat as well as just like a dream sequence here. There's gonna be like just like a decent amount of cutscenes coming from here to sort of like set up the entry. So just to introduce this, this is the sequel to Chrono Trigger, and I know a lot of people here are big fans of Chrono Trigger. And so this is the Radical Dreamers edition, which also had a couple changes. So I believe in the PSX version, like for example, in the PSX version, like the text moves like really slow, and I think you only unlock fast forward after like beating the game or so.
Yeah, that's true.
And you pretty much so there in the Radical Dreamers edition, there's already like a couple sort of like quality of life features. Like you immediately get like fast forward. You can have an option for no encounters or like auto battle. So I'm running a category without fast forward or any of that, just because mainly because my honest thing is that like I cannot like play this game on fast forward. It's not the best for my eyes, so to speak. But either way you play it, it's honestly an awesome game to get into. And the story of this game is really cool, even for like all of its little quirks. And the soundtrack is really great, and the combat system is really intricate. It's like decently intricate, and especially in a speed run, there's, as you can see, like there's a lot of like little things. Like it's easy to learn. I would call it easy to learn, but very hard to master.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, honestly, the big part of Chrono Cross running, or speed running at the very least, is kind of just learning the battle system. So, like, as we kind of go through the runs and marathons, it's kind of an art to slowly feeding out the information, because it'd be very easy to jump into the first fight and then just get info dumped with everything that's on screen. So I think we'll try to, like, slowly introduce, like, some of the mechanics as we're going through this Links 2 run.
Yeah, so coming up, we're talking to Lena, who's pretty much our childhood friend, and she's basically telling us to go, like, get some stuff. So we're just pretty much going to do this quick shot to get some fireball attacks. Oh, I did not press down on this.
Yeah, so we did mention in the intro cutscene that, like, normally we dodge all, like, regular enemies. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, Chrono Cross doesn't necessarily work on, like, a traditional experience to level up grinding system. It works on what they call a star system, where stars are basically, you can kind of think of them just like every boss fight. And at every boss fight, your characters have per stat weighted averages that it kind of tries to aim for, and if you're below that average, it gives you higher odds of getting an increase to that stat. If you're above that, it decreases your odds a little bit. So it is a little bit it has some weighted randomness to it, and it's kind of like up to runners' experience to kind of deal with a whole bunch of different varying things, like what stat you have for Surge's strength or Lena's magic later. And then, as you can see in this fight here, we open up with, like, we don't have like an ATB bar that kind of decides when enemies go. We can kind of touch on the AP as we get a little bit further into it, but you'll see that basically we have all the time in the world that we can choose to do what attack we want to do, where we can do like a physical attack with a 1, a 2, a 3, and as you saw the percents next to them, they dictate our chance of hitting. And although a lot of the time it doesn't feel like that's true, but there's a lot of misses.
I always call this accuracy system like the precursor to XCOM, and I have like a little inner joke that's like, my goodness, like every time I play this game, I feel like I'm playing XCOM sometimes.
It does feel like that, yeah. But yeah, just as like a general like introduction as to like with the 1, 2, and 3, that kind of works similar to what you would imagine, where like a 1 is like a weaker attack, a 2 is a little bit stronger, and a 3 is our fierce attack, where 3s are also the only thing that have a chance of critting. And besides like just the accuracy being less as we go up in which attack we want to hit, there also is a system that like lets us build up that accuracy by doing smaller attacks, and every one that hits, it builds up your accuracy for the next attack. So there's going to be a lot of like intertwined systems all playing together. Also, here, just to kind of touch on like what we're trying to do here, Sanjan mentioned that we are collecting some stuff for Lena. This is one of the few times where we're not doing just boss fights. We actually have to do a bunch of random encounters, because per story, we need to collect these Komodo scales from all the Komodos we're fighting, like right now. But additionally, for the speedrun side of it, here we're also trying to collect some specific drops. We're trying to get a feather, which is a rare drop from one of these Komodos. If we don't get it, there is a backup. We're also trying to get a humor, which is a common drop from the blue beach bum things that we just fought as well. And then we also need a fang. And those materials will be pretty important for
nice.
building some weapons that are made. Oh, did you get the feather?
Yeah, I got the feather. We're pretty upset because, so I fought an extra encounter, like that beach bum who unfortunately blocked my way. Like, I had to fight that. Normally, like, you can dodge it sometimes if they don't, like, walk in your way, but I simply chose to take it, just because, like, it would be a little more convenient and a little safer. Oh no.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So basically, and that gave me like all the items that I need. So like what I need to collect in total is 2 humors and a fang. And feather, like I can get a backup for the feather if I don't get it, which is like a 10% chance or so. It's a rare drop, but it's always nice when you get a feather.
And so finally we were introduced to our first boss of the run. Unfortunately, we didn't get a full refresh here. Normally you can one cycle this boss if you land 3 2s and then roll a 48 or higher on the fireball. But we got a 4 stamina, so we could only do 2 and 2, let the enemy go. And now we just need to hit a 2, and then if we roll 49 or higher, this will kill.
Yeah, there's a lot on like sort of stamina refreshes that are. There's a lot of like inner really, really complicated mechanics in this game.
Yeah, it can definitely, I think upon, like when you're first looking at it, all the different kind of systems all kind of being intertwined can seem overwhelming. But I think that learning piece by piece, it's kind of like how like runners get into the run, and like it slowly starts all coming together. And then I think after that point, it's a little bit less overwhelming, but I think it's really fun to it's like the battles are almost puzzles, it feels like, that you learn to deal with.
Yeah, I would say like runners at the very top end. So this game, like there's a lot of like puzzles and like nuances that you have to deal with, because like most fights, there can be like these really tiny variances that can happen. Like if you miss your 99%, cough, cough, or just like something goes wrong, or you don't hit the attacks, or like or like a big component too is just like tracking your character stats, because your character stats are randomized. Like, for example, I went to quickly look at Surge's strength and he didn't have 10 strength, so that's like something that I have to keep in mind. And like later on, like you have characters where their stats matter. But yeah, going back to this category and like learning this game, so this is essentially, we are only playing the first 2 hours or so of this game. And playing the first 2 hours or so of this game happens to also be like a very good introduction to learning this game, because this full game is 6 hours long. Your first run's likely going to be like 6.5, 7 hours long.
Yeah, I think that actually touches exactly on what we were also mentioning earlier when we said that like a lot of this speedrun is like just like you learn the intricacies of the battle system. So like as Sanjan was saying, the first 2 hours of this, like sure there's going to be battles that are like technically different after those first 2 hours, but if you can consistently get through the first 2 hours and deal with all of the systems at play and like the RNG within those 2 hours, you can kind of take those lessons that you learned there and apply them for the rest of the run.
Yeah, and in this particular like kind of shortened run, there's still just like a lot of content, like a lot of bosses and a lot of scenarios that you have to deal with within this game. So
also, as we see here, so Surge, runners will see this cutscene a lot, because as we just saw, like as going through the first split that Sanjan just did, with all those drops and all the random encounters, this is kind of known as like one of the more RNG-centric splits of the game. You can get none of the drops you're looking for. You could also miss a stat like we did. Luckily, for marathon sake, Chrono Cross I think is pretty reasonable to get through. There's a lot of backups to get through it. They might be a little bit slower, but it's pretty routine to be able to get through a marathon run. It's just the game could be, sometimes Chrono Cross isn't the nicest.
yeah, a lot of it like also boils down to also like being able to play through like different like variations of stats. So like, well, even with randomized stats, like it'll like generally try to sort of like quote unquote balance, and this matters more towards like the end of the game. Yeah, the thing is that like, so the game does take into consideration your stats that you're currently at. Like, so for example, because Sanjan missed getting a strength on Surge here, technically when it rolled already, because it technically already did, when it rolled to see what you're going to get on the next star fight that we're going to do, it took into the consideration the fact that we missed this one. However, in the full game run, that means like as you get towards like the end of the final bosses, the game really tries to converge on whatever the average stat is for that character. So it takes in like how far into the game you are.
So it could be a little bit less likely that it tries to converge on it whenever you're just doing the first 2 hours, but it still should be to a point to where, like, even if it is slow, runners are able to get through it.
Yeah, so the original graphics were from 1999, but in the RDE version, they allow you to have either like the more enhanced graphics, at least for like the character portraits. So I am using like the newer character portraits just because that's kind of what I'm accustomed to. The PC version came out in 2022, like the remaster, if I'm right about that.
I forget the exact year, but it's been 2 or 3 years. I think that's right. Also, just to touch on a small mechanic that maybe if someone's played this game casually, they might be wondering, like, why would it not be faster to maybe go pick up Poshul or somebody that we could have already for this beginning section? And it actually turns out that besides going and taking the time to go get Poshul, for example, having Surge only in the party means that bosses like the Mama Komodo and the regular enemies all have their HPs halved. So it ends up being faster.
So I don't have to grab these because I have pretty much literally everything I need. That beach bum battle gave me 2 humors and a fang, so I'm very set.
Oh, nice. You got both the humors? I didn't see you get both.
Yeah. I had that extra encounter.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So that's good because like another backup we can do here is that, like, for example, if Sanjan was missing a humor, for example, we get a common ivory vest drop from Salt here, which we could trade out for Poshul's armor whenever we get Poshul here in a second, and we can disassemble it. Now, like, we don't really need to know all the specifics of all the backups, but that's just an example of, like, it might be slower, but the game, like, we have routed in like ways for runners to be able to backups on backups on backups for the run.
Yeah, we get to meet one of the very iconic characters here. We definitely haven't seen her in Visions like 200 times already.
Also, small mechanic you're going to see throughout the rest of the run, and we've already kind of seen it a little bit. We did touch on the physical attacks. Another thing that we do is things called elements, and it's kind of the magic system of the game, but you can really only use each element in a slot one time per battle. And additionally, even though a lot of times they do more damage in a single physical attack, the animation of them makes them slower. Although they can't miss, that's nice. There's a lot of benefits to them, but a lot of times what we're going to see us do is we're going to be trying to do physical attacks as much as possible.
Yeah, so these fights for me do take a lot of focus, just mainly because like I have to track like what each of these enemies do, and this is like honestly like one of the more complicated fights like that is coming to like straight out. Like, it's a basic fight, but if you want to do it fast, you have to keep track of a lot of things. Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, no, actually, I think that this fight, you can get through it like as a new runner, pretty simply, as Sanjan was saying. But yeah, if you're trying to like optimize the fight, there's a lot of things you have to keep track of. Like Surge's strength coming into it is one of the things that we kept track of. We didn't get to see what Kid's stats were, even though Kid did also roll to see what her stats were going to be after the Mama Komodo fight as well. So we didn't know what her magic was. We don't know what her strength is, but you can actually watch what damage she does on some of her attacks. Like her 2 on Salt, if it did a 6, that means she got her strength up. And when Sanjan said, oh, that was nice, is because the Magma Bomb did a 21 on Salt, meaning that she also got the magic. So that's like a bunch of small things to kind of keep track of that help dictate, like, hey, can we skip a fight here, or skip a turn here, or
I'm gonna do this in like kind of weird order, but it's fine.
Also, just to touch on field effect here, we'll see up at the top that the whole field is completely red because we've done some other red elements. And so that fireball got a big boost that we just did. That's another kind of key mechanic that we'll be taking advantage throughout in some of the run.
3. On a full send is 3-3, and then it'll be much easier for me to think from here. Okay, that actually worked out.
That was a good fight.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid fight. Alright, I gotta check. Surge is still 9 strength. But we got normalized drops, which is nice.
Feels field effect also increases the strength of melee by the innate of relevant characters too, doesn't it? Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, so like I said, it's kind of hard to touch on all the small things like all at once without info dumping, but that is true. So field effect also increases like we just mentioned, like elements of the same color. They get a boost of, if I'm not mistaken, it's 12.5% per like net color on the field. But that also increases the physical attacks of, for example, Kid, who is a red innate. Because every character in the game has an innate color, like Surge is white innate, Kid is red innate, Poshul, I believe, is yellow innate. And like, so the field effect also affects their physical attack.
All right, I had to do the hardest tech in this run, so I'll let you keep talking.
We do call this a secret boss. So in Chrono Cross, there's a bunch of like paths that you can take that like lead to different characters. By the way, if you don't know this game, there are like 45 playable characters, and usually casually it takes several, like 3, I think, different playthroughs to get all of the side characters that you want. Here we're making some choices where we have to deny Kid 3 times. The game really wants to make sure that we don't want Kid yet. And we do this for a specific reason. We're about to get 2 characters. One of them is really more important for the run than the other, but we're going to get Poshul and we're about to get Lena, where Lena will be actually useful for even the part of the run that we're showcasing today. She'll be used a lot post Viper Manor, and we can kind of touch on why as we get closer to that.
We did it. We beat the secret boss.
Let's go. It sounds like a joke, but it is. I think it is a rite of passage for most runners to accidentally end one of the runs by accidentally just either not paying attention or mashing through and accepting Kid. So in a marathon, it's like really like, okay, I'm gonna go slow through this and make sure.
Yeah, I think I've actually only messed up Kid once, but I've seen runners. I've seen like basically like there's a lot of stuff in the game where it's just like, yep, we've been there.
Yeah. Yep. So now we have more party members, and it's not just Surge. I guess story-wise, just to kind of continue like what's going on here. After we collect all the stuff for Lena, we had that whole beach cutscene where we woke up and we're like, wait, what's going on? Things look differently. I'm not going to go too in depth with the story. It's a lot. I like the story, but it is convoluted and it's hard to kind of go through and explain in the marathon. But we woke up here. We went to check our gravestone after we talked to Lena here in this world, who said, things that kind of confused us. We went and checked on the grave where we just did that fight. We were attacked. And now we're kind of exploring or continuing the story of like trying to figure out like what's going on, our surges.
Justice for Poshul, I say. Okay. Okay. That turn is always scary, especially when they're like in an awkward spot. And yeah, so like if we had said yes to Kid, we would have not gotten Lena and a later character, which both characters we pretty much critically need for this run.
And you might be watching and saying, wait, didn't we just fight these guys? So, as you probably saw beforehand, there was a lot of text in the last fight and in this fight where we had to defend until we got to a certain point. That's why we start here with the defend. These guys are kind of treated as like the tutorial fights of the game. So there's a lot of like necessary stuff that they have to go through text-wise. And the fight, even if you do damage and stuff like that, doesn't technically count until after we get past that point. So that's why we defend it out, let them get all their text through that they need to, and then we actually start the fight.
Yeah, this fight is also fun because Poshul, there's just like a stamina mechanic in this game, and sort of just like nice.
Yeah. So as you can see, like every character in the game starts with 7.0 stamina at the beginning of the fight. And as you spend, like say, for example, a 1 attack, a 2 attack, or a 3 attack, those all make sense. They will drain your stamina by that amount. As you can see here, Sir just went to 0. However, elements, they only cost 1 AP, and we'll touch on AP in 1 second, but they drain all 7 of your stamina, and you can go into negatives. So a lot of time what you'll see is like, so if we went to like, so 3 here, if we did an element right here, we'd go to -7, and to refresh, nice crit. If we went to refresh that character, we would have to do that amount of attacks with other characters to refresh our other party members. So there's a lot of balancing, like, okay, this character did some attacks, drain their stamina, go to a different character, they're draining their stamina, but they're refreshing the one that we just used. So it's a lot of balancing your character's staminas.
Yeah, this fight can suck just mainly because Partial is quite inaccurate. But we honestly got pretty lucky there. Like, Partial critting was really nice. And especially, like, excuse me, fights can really easily snowball, like, out of control, like when your characters just start missing their attacks left, right, and center.
Yeah, that's true. Also, coming up, we do also have another split path for Chrono Cross, where if you are someone who played the game casually, I would say, maybe I'm mistaken about this, but I feel like casually probably the most common character to grab here is Gil, however you want to pronounce his name. We are actually not going to do that. We're going to grab a different character coming up here. And if you have played this casually, you're probably wondering why, because he seems like maybe he's the worst choice out of the three. But actually, we're just trying to take the character that gets us into the manor coming up in the fastest way possible. But before that, we actually are going to get a second opportunity here to grab Kid, because Kid is persistent.
Yeah, she finds her way in somehow, even if you just like say no to her. And she'll give us some useful items since we have more party members now.
It is funny to think about. It is funny to think about that Kid. This is like where we do accept Kid here, but in the full game speedrun, this is probably one of the only times that we're generally nice to Kid. We say something yes to Kid and saying, like, instead of going go away, go away, go away.
Yeah, so we're gonna get Pierre, who's in the smithy, and it just also happens so that we need to craft some items to get some better weapons for Kid and Surge. So that's why I was trying to track the materials that we got, because we got all the materials to make our items, but generally, like, at minimum, we need the weapon for Surge.
I also think it's really interesting. So we did get the feather, which we needed. We got the 2 humors we needed, and we got the fang that we needed. But even with all of those things gathered, funnily enough, that would not be enough because we still need iron. And it just so happens that there is a Profiteer's Purse that was hidden behind the chest that Sanjan just grabbed that we can, instead of using, disassemble, and it gives us the iron that we need for the weapons that we'll be using for a while, including the dagger for Kid and the iron swallow from Surge. So it's funny that it kind of just works out that way.
And grabbing the item he needs here is pretty short because this kid here has it. Pun not intended.
I won't spoil what it is, but even though Pierre is kind of, like I said, the worst of the 3 choices in terms of probably as a character in battle, at least for the most part, but he will serve a pretty key purpose that we'll touch on as we go into the fight.
I've always
Also,
wondered
if
you grabbed him here, is there an extra cutscene? Like if you grabbed him
So it's not,
right here?
It's not an extra cutscene. It's he just has a little bit of extra text.
Gotcha.
So if you're fast about it, it's not like that much slower one way or another, but it's more of like if you're just trying to be optimal, it's faster to deny him here, and then as you're about to see Sanjan do, we're gonna put him in the party on the main on the world map.
Yeah, so I'm gonna switch out Partial. And then I already did the equipment menu before. Yeah, so funny enough, these 2 guards are actually a star fight.
Yeah, that's true. That's why. So I usually, when I'm trying to explain it, I say star fights are usually boss fights. There are some key exceptions, and this is mainly one of them. Basically, the game, like I said, it has split routes that it tries to send you on, and some of them, I guess, they don't necessarily have enough star fights, but they're trying to keep all of them the same. So sometimes you'll get star fights like this, where it's like, okay, there's 2 guards here, but they still give you a chance of getting a key stat up.
All right. 2.
I guess, so we've already touched on like stamina, we've touched on like the attacks that we can do really, and we touched a little bit on field effect and the elements. So I guess now we can kind of touch on like how turn order works, because it maybe seems like just pure random, and there is some randomness to it. But if you're someone who's like used to like Final Fantasy games or something like that, where there's like an ATB bar that fills up, this Chrono Cross doesn't work on that system. It works on what it calls an AP system or action point, where basically, so for example, when we spend attacks, when we do a 1, we do a 2, we do a 3, that in and of itself is a 1, 2, or 3 worth of action points. Elements, even though they drain 7 stamina, are only 1 action point, and defends are also 1 action point. Basically, enemies will have a AP stat or an AP value that they start at. And this is like a very layman's explanation. There's a little bit more depth into it, but so for example, we'll say that Salt just starts at 9 AP. Whenever we do a 3, he'll go from 9, he'll go to 6, and it counts down. And whenever he hits 0, he'll take his turn. So we're kind of tracking. Oh yeah, we did. We missed that. Yeah, that's Pierre's one job. We put Pierre in the center here so that he can, per script, take that hit for us. But yeah, when enemies hit 0, that's whenever they're going to take their turn. And we're trying to keep track of that, trying to give enemies the least amount of turns as possible.
Yeah, honestly, we could spend, like, if this were a full run, we could honestly spend, like, 6 hours straight, like, info dumping about, like, all the little mechanics and such. Like, it is that intricate. Oof. Okay, that's slightly unfortunate. That's okay, though.
And this is also another area where, like, just in general of like keeping track of a whole bunch of different things and why experience matters is there's no way I think, unless we got a bunch of +2s since last I looked, where we're at 13 strength. But if we were at 13 strength here, we could one cycle with just Surge where we could have done a 3-3 or something, or a 2-2-2 dash and slash, and would have procced this flame knock that's happening right here. But as you saw, the strat changes a little bit, where we did the dash and slash with Surge, we didn't proc the flame knock, so we had to go poke with Kid. So there's a bunch of just like small different changes you have to kind of be wary about in the run based off your stats. And we'll say goodbye to Pierre again.
It's nice of him to take one for the team again.
Also, small thing coming up. Here we just saw Ketchup go into like a crouch position. A lot of bosses will have a crit stance animation, meaning that they're in critical health. And that basically just means that they're at 25% or less health.
Yeah, for some bosses it does matter, because some bosses operate on a pattern where they will basically use a really powerful ability when they are at low HP. And it's going to be a big factor coming up in one of the fights soon. Alright, so 12 strength isn't too bad. Not ideal, but that's fine.
Yeah, that it's at least manageable. At least you're not at 9.
Yeah.
So, which is possible. I'm not sure if you said you were going to try guard skip or not, but I can, if you want, touch on guard skip if you wanted, if you're going to try that one time.
You got to get the content for the viewers, so I'll be doing guard skip. I'll try it a couple times, but like if it's not done by like the 3rd or 4th try, we'll just beat the fight normally.
Yeah, that makes sense. So coming up is probably the biggest quote-unquote, I guess, sequence break in Chrono Cross, and it's not even that much. We're skipping a fight, ideally. There isn't really a consistent setup for it. It's a 1-frame window to try to get inside the door between 2 text boxes of guards. So we just saw those guards at the front door, and normally when you try to get anywhere near them, like in their vicinity, it'll stop you from running anywhere near them, and they'll run and dash at you, and they'll start a fight. To just kind of, the developers made sure that, you know, there's no way that you can sneak behind them. But for some reason, if we grab one of the roaming guards around one of the small guards and have them chasing us while we're in that aggro state, them stopping us from getting behind them doesn't occur. However, even though we have the key, while we're in that aggro state, we cannot get in the door still. But during the where did they go de-aggro, like whenever we get de-aggroed from the guard chasing us, whenever it de-aggroes, he'll say, where do they go? And a text box will pop up. In between that text box going away and then the text box of the guards who would normally stop us at the front, saying, like, charging at us, there is a frame between those 2 text boxes where we can actually get in the door. So that's what Sanjan was saying. Like, it's not guaranteed at all. And in a marathon, you don't want to keep going for it until the run dies. You just want to,
Bad
So
RNG.
it's just, a lot of times, like, if especially with using turbo, which you can still miss with, it comes down to just RNG.
Yeah, so here, thankfully, we can just, like, escape and try it again. After I grab the other guard. It can be weird sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like not that big of a deal one way or another, especially in a marathon. It saves, if you get it the first try, I think it maybe saves like a minute. Yeah, and the game's not cooperating.
Yeah, we'll give it one more try or so, and if not, I will just beat up the other encounter. I might have to reset for the other guard, but it's all good.
Yeah, additionally, also, every time we load in this fight, both times we've done it so far, we see that there's 4 guards. It doesn't have to be 4 guards. It could be 3, which would be nice if we're going to have to fight it.
Okay, nice. Third try.
Nice.
Third try's a charm. Yes, there is a lot of cause and effect for this guard skip. Like, I will have to actually very much keep in mind my money route. Since for the early parts of this game, like, money is pretty tight.
Also, for anybody who wants to maybe partake in chat, coming up after this fight, there is a statue that we're going to get a code for. It can be random anywhere between 1 and 9 on the left and the right side that we'll have to watch spin. So if you want to give a guess between 1 and 9 twice for what the statue code is going to be, that is coming up. I'm going to guess 4 and 5, or 45.
I think my most recent run was like a 15 or something. Okay.
Can they be the same number twice?
Yes, it can be.
I'm going 4 and 4.
Ooh, okay. Maybe we'll get the
44.
coveted 1-1 in marathon.
Ooh.
I think my closest was like 12 or something like that.
I've had 1-1 one time, and it was in a D-Rust.
All right, nice.
Nice.
I'll keep an eye on chat for when the numbers are revealed, see if anyone got it.
It'll be revealed in about 30 seconds from now.
Oh boy.
30, 40 seconds.
Get those guesses in.
Yeah, so before we get to this statue reveal, what we're going to see here is kind of a fan favorite character for anybody who's played casually. We'll probably, maybe get to see a little bit more of him later on. But for now, we're going to talk to him. We're going to go pick up a chest for a Dragoon's Honor, which will be a useful item here in a bit. And then also, we're going to pick up a revive in the next room. And then shortly right after that, we'll get to, whenever we go to the board, we're going to get to see what the statue is.
Grab this revive here.
Also, these revive elements are that's the only one we get in the entire run. Oh, 83. Did anybody guess 83?
There's some pretty close people. I saw 72.
Yeah, no 83s. Unlucky.
Fortunately, 83, just barely sub-average, because obviously 1 and 9 would be average, a sum of 10. So we're just slightly outside of range of that. And it's not too bad one way or the other. We do have to watch it spin. So like if in the worst case, if you see a 9-9, you watch it spin 9 times to the left and then 9 times to the right.
It remind me of 83 because usually like I would write it down, but I'm pretty sure I would forget this. I'll heal Pierre once. And I gotta do this menu here. No. Yeah, element equips or menus in this game are honestly like pretty awkward because like it eats your inputs quite a bit.
Yeah, I would say Chrono Cross menuing is definitely a what's the word? Like a learned. Like you have to like when you first get into it, the menus they feel very clunky for whatever reason. It's even worse on PlayStation. If on the NA version of the PlayStation game. The inputs are really, the game is very hungry for your inputs. Additionally, we're actually about to see a mechanic that we haven't seen yet at all. I don't think. Yeah, no, we haven't seen it yet at all.
Yeah.
So we picked up a turn yellow behind the gate coming into the manor. And we're going to see that these enemies, how we mentioned, our characters have innate colors. So do enemies. Here, they are green. And the game works on a versus system in terms of colors. So we're going to actually do a turn yellow on Surge. And what that does is it gives a type advantage, basically, to Surge. So all of his physical attacks will do more damage.
You said type advantage. It's Hop all over again from Pokemon.
Dude, Pokemon reference, yes.
I do have to track AP. Hopefully I can kill before Miss Neil gets a second turn. Nice.
And why Sanjan is tracking the AP here. So a lot of the mechanics we've been touching on is kind of like the very basic level speedrun mechanics. There is an advanced mechanic that we've been doing basically in every fight that I'll try to touch on briefly. So basically, imagine a scenario where an enemy, we've been counting their AP, and we know that they're at 1 AP left, meaning that no matter what we do, if we do a defend, if we do a 1, if we do a 2, if we do a 3, whatever we do, they're going next. The game doesn't like roll into negatives, so if they're at 1 AP and we throw a 3, they just go to 0 regardless. So it makes sense to be like, okay, they're about to go, let me swing heavy and get the most out of it. Well, we can also take advantage of the fact that the game, it buffers it buffers attacks in pairs of 2. So if we do a 2-2-3, the game will read that as a 2-2, then a 3. So if we do a 2-2-3 when an enemy's at 1 AP, both the 2-2 will go through, but then the 3 will be interrupted. So a lot of the times what we're going to do is, as it would make sense, if we know that the enemy is about to go, we end our turn by throwing a 3-3. We just buffer the biggest attacks that we can together because 1, it does the most damage. 2, we have the highest chance of getting a crit or whatever, which kind of leads into most damage as well. And additionally, that refreshes all of our other party members by an extra 6, for example. So a lot of the fights are structured around that mechanic, which we call stamina pushing or attack queuing, but most people I think call it stamina pushing.
83, right?
83. Also, fun fact, it just so happens again to kind of help out the speedrun here, but Karsh there is protecting a chest that as an Easter egg, when you try to talk to him over and over and over, it seems like, okay, he's not gonna let me have the chest. You talk to him 20 times, he gives up and lets you have it, and it gives us a gauntlet, which will be so useful for the entirety of the rest of the run. Even if we were doing a full run, because that is +3 to our strength. And as you can see, is every boss fight we do, we're hoping to get a +1. We can't get a +2, but we can touch on that a little bit later. So +3 is a big boost to our strength just from an accessory, especially so early.
Yeah, and generally, accessory strength increases are more than your character's strength, roughly.
Yep. Okay, so coming up... Oh, good.
No, you can go ahead.
I was going to say, coming up is the reason I kind of touched on stamina pushing and tried to get all that in right before this fight is up to this point, if you were a brand new runner and you were just kind of going through the notes, even if you didn't understand the mechanics, you could pretty easily get through without getting punished. This is one of the first fights where, although you can technically get through if you get lucky and you don't understand the mechanics, this is where understanding AP and stamina pushing and stuff like that really matters. So Marcy has a kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, a revenge mechanic, I guess, where when she goes into her crit health, the next time that she gets her turn, she is guaranteed to do an ice blast, multiple ice blasts, really, and then after that a cure plus. So what we're trying to do is we're going to try to structure the fight to where whenever we push her into crit health, on that same turn before she gets a turn, we kill her. We do not want to see the ice blasts. They're dangerous, they're slow, all the things. So the fight is going to be very structured around dealing and kind of looking at what her AP is, what her max what her current HP is, for example. And additionally, I guess because I did mention that we do end turns with 3-3s, it might look weird as to why we're opening up with the 3-3 here, like Sanjan's about to do. And that's because the rule I made about, or said about all enemies having a baseline AP and then it counts down from that, doesn't count on the first turn. The first turn is very random, so we don't know what their starting AP is on the first turn.
Yeah, this turn, I got several misses here, which isn't ideal, so that's why I've been swinging a little more.
So she also does have this right here, where when she goes below 50% HP, she does Cat's Cradle. So it's kind of a good indicator by Pierre. Thanks for taking that for us. And so this is where the turn, yeah, okay. So as we can see, she went into her crit HP, so she's now queued up to do Ice Blast because she already did Cat's Cradle. So we're trying to kill her before she gets to go again. And she should be done now that we did both the Fireball and the Dash.
Her crit HP is 125 HP, so most of the time, like with Fireball, as well as Dash and Slash, that's enough damage. Yeah, there would have been a way for me to detect the any more advanced AP mechanics, but that is just like a really, really long explanation.
Yeah, I think the advanced AP mechanics can even be a little bit overwhelming to even like moderately experienced runners. But like as Sanjan and I were saying, like we're slowly like drip feeding a lot of the mechanics and stuff like that. There's a lot of battle mechanics going to Chrono Cross, which I think it makes the game really, really fun.
Like when I'm like there, it's like easy enough to like just follow like the script easily, but like mastering the game, like it requires a lot of understanding of the mechanics, because because with more understanding, you have to track your enemy's AP, you have to track their HP, you have to kind of like know what they're doing, like what they're gonna do, like script wise, and that's important, especially for bosses. Also, hi Harley, another iconic character.
That's a lot of people's favorite character too.
Okay, so
coming up right here,
strength, so it's like kind of low, but it's still very doable. Like we've had good fights so far. Like I always want higher strength, but like sometimes like these, even with just like lower strength, like you'll hit the hits that you want to hit, essentially.
And luckily the guards here, they gave us only 3. You can get 4 here, and like anytime we have to do a non-boss fight, one of the RNG things that go into it, which is why we try to avoid a lot of it. Also because obviously they're not needed because we don't grind experience, but it's because we also have to deal with formation RNG. Luckily this was a good one. The only reason we would maybe want 4 here is because, as Sanjan mentioned earlier, doing guard skip meant that we skipped a fight. And so more guards would have been more money, but we have backups for money issues. There's only one spot in the entirety of the Chrono Cross run that can be tied on money, and it's in a very specific scenario that does include guard skip. Other than that, money is really chill.
I was sitting on taking the autosave just in case, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. So, funnily enough, Lynx also kind of follows a similar idea for the structured fight that we just talked about from Marcy. Except for Lynx, whenever Lynx goes into critical HP, it's not necessarily that he's doing something dangerous, although the fight can get dangerous the longer it goes. But he has something called Nostrum, which is a black element that heals, I believe, like 200 and something, which is a lot of HP for this part of the game, especially since his max HP is 861. And additionally, because Surge is a white innate character, whenever he does the Nostrum and heals, it also means that it puts a black element on the field, which makes Surge do less damage. So it just kind of is a snowball-y thing. So what we're going to try to do is take advantage of another part of his AI that says whenever he gets hit by Dash and Slash, ooh, nice crit, or something else, he has a certain counter flag. So we're going to try to time up whenever we make him do his counter flag to also be on the turn that he would have done Nostrum, so that it overrides it and skips it.
I'm going to try something. Okay, that's interesting. He is 9 AP.
Oh, you got the +1. Nice.
Yeah, he's 9 AP base. I think I'll defend this. I don't know his... I actually don't know, like, his HP.
He's got to be pretty close.
Yeah. So I'll just do... Oh, okay.
Nice.
I think I might. Let's see. 2, 2, 1, 1. Yeah, so this is like a really strange order on this. That's 84. That's fine. I think I can do this.
Yeah, as Sanjan said, this is a little bit like, so, I mean, it's pretty, not, this particular strat obviously isn't common to go this way, but it is common in Chrono Cross runs that, like, for example, we had a really good RNG roll in the beginning AP. So what Sanjan did something different that's off cycle to try to take advantage of it. And that's like a big part of Chrono Cross running as well. And so that's what we're doing right now is we're trying to figure out the best way to take advantage of all this.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so like a lot of this is just like taking these scenarios and just like, oh, nice 15 strength. Like learning how to make it with it as fast as possible. Like I probably could have like done dash and slash there immediately. But since I saw like I like explaining logic in my runs personally, especially marathon runs, just because like there's a lot of things that like come into it. But like my thinking, like which is sometimes it's not necessarily the fastest, but it is the fastest in that moment. Is that I like, especially with higher AP, I will like my general logic is I just essentially like send more damage over.
Yep, and that worked. I think the Pilfer got the common still, did it not? Did you get the magic ring? I think so, because so what we were looking for there when we did the Pilfer was we were trying to get a magic ring, which will be useful for Lena coming up pretty soon. You can unfortunately get a rare still there, which would have been the
and the rare is the it's the power glove? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did get the magic ring. Sorry, like I was just trying to process everything that was like going on in that fight because there's a lot going on in that fight.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just didn't see what it was. I was too busy talking about
yeah. It's fun just because like these fights like massively change and I had a script in my mind like how to talk about it like with you helping out. I was just like, oh, we just threw that all out the window because we learned like a very important fact that like Link's like I guess if we explained that mechanic we'd be here for like 20 minutes additionally.
Yeah. As a shorthand explanation. So, for example, we talked about knowing, besides the first turn, we know what AP an enemy goes back to. So say they take a turn and then their AP will refresh. For Link's, we know that AP as a baseline is 8 AP. However, as Sanjan said, we saw that it was 9 AP in that fight. What that means is that like Link's basically... I'm trying to shorthand this. Rolled a charity AP on top of his base AP, meaning that at every turn now, his baseline is 9. And the only reason that we know that, because we can't see the code, is you can do so many actions that you can, by math and knowing the formula, know that the only way that he could roll as high as he did on a specific turn is if his AP was higher than what it normally would be. I'm not going to go into all of the math behind it, but that is kind of the idea. So it just was a way of taking advantage of the fact that by math, we knew that he was one higher than what he was.
He said the word. He said the word.
Oh my gosh. He said it.
All right, I gotta get the Iron Dagger from Kid because I did a guard skip. I always do this menu slower just because like I generally do the guard skip. I just skip like an equipment the Ivory Dagger because it personally just like feels awkward to me.
Yeah. Also, we have a good bit of text coming up here. Basically, Kid in that last cutscene took a poison dagger for Riddell because Link's threw it. And coming up here, like it's kind of casually another split in decision making that you can make as a casual player. And as I mentioned earlier, besides that one point, we generally, anytime there's a split decision that involves kid, the meaner decision to kid is usually the more optimal for the speed run. Because here, if we decide to not save kid, who, funnily enough, just kind of helped us go through the entire manner, we get honestly one of the better characters, one of the best characters in the entire game, which will be part of our party going for the rest of the run, basically, and is actually in the end game party for the full run as well.
Yeah, there's your favorite character, Korcha.
Oh no. Yeah, so for anybody wondering, there's like some community lore about Korcha. A lot of people believe that he's bad luck, me included, and because the random party member, that third party member that comes up on the elevator, because it is random, Korcha can come up, and I have never taken a Korcha run. If Korcha comes up, I immediately reset.
Yeah, there's like a huge, like as Andy alluded, there's like a huge decision that you do here, and like if you were to try to save kid, you would have to do like you would have to do different things. You would get different characters, and like I think if you do like try to save her, you have to deal with like some tough bosses or so.
I think the main thing is you also just have to do a whole other side quest as well. It's been a while since I've done casually, but I believe you have to go to the Hydra Marshes and do a whole other side quest.
Yeah, thankfully this is like not helping her is the first option, unlike with having to say no to kid 3 times.
So another mechanic that is coming up very shortly is I kind of alluded to it a little bit when we got kid, and I said that we didn't know what her stats were in that one fight, but we could tell by the damage she was doing certain attacks. Basically, how we mentioned that Surge our characters at every star fight get a chance of getting key stat ups, increased. That applies for every character in the game that would or could ever be in your party. So characters that we will never see in this run, characters that we're about to get, they've all been rolling in the background as well. So essentially what that does is it makes your characters, the characters that you're going to use, when we get them, their stats are effectively shuffled or random. So Glenn's strength is going to be an important one coming up, and Lena's magic is going to be another one coming up. And like I said, they've been rolling since the entirety of the game, and we're hoping that those are going to be both really good.
The Glena difference, I say.
Yeah, and so Glenn, for the purposes of this category, Glenn's strength is going to be more important first because of like Mount Pyre and such coming up. But I think a lot of people would say that like Lena's magic is also like very, very important. It'll make the next dungeon we go through slower or faster, easier or harder.
Yeah, it's always easier with good stats, but you still like need to have A, the good RNG, and like B, like the good hits that you need to get.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that newer runners start to kind of conflate is that like they see stats, and stats do make things easier for sure. But a lot of things, like Sanjan was just saying, that also matter is you can have good stats, but a lot of the strats also differ. Like you'll have a good start and a bad start because of the mechanic I mentioned earlier where the starting AP turn is random. So we have things where we do, like, for example, a 1-2-2 opener with Lena. And because, like I said, things can only be buffered in 2s, if an enemy starts at 0 through 3, they'll go after the 1-2 and interrupt before we get to the other 2 to build, the levels that we need. So we have like good starts and bad starts based off of AP as well. So there's a lot of things that depend on like which strat we're going to do. And you can have bad stats and have good AP starts and good AP fights, or you can have really good stats and have bad AP starts and bad fights. And so there's a lot of things to kind of keep track of and make just quick decisions on.
Yeah, Yeah, my confession to everyone is that I played Chrono Cross first, and I purely played it because of the great soundtrack. And then I played Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Cross does have an amazing soundtrack.
It does. That's probably why I played it first.
I think the entirety of the Chrono series has an amazing soundtrack. I'm a big fan of the entirety of the series, including Radical Dreamers, which a couple of Chrono Cross's songs actually come from Radical Dreamers. But so does Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger has an amazing soundtrack as well. It's just Chrono Cross, despite how anybody feels about any other parts of the game, I think its soundtrack just is like just a slight nudge above for me. Also, we are finally about to be through with all of the dialogue. The game kind of seems to follow a trend. I mean, not even just this game, but a lot of RPGs where, we did all of like our dungeon, we did all of Viper Manor. We have a little bit of I don't know, you call it like an interlude, where we get a bunch of text, we get a bunch of downtime. We're about to go do some shopping before we start picking it up for the basically second half of this category.
Is this game a good entry point? I think in terms of just like, if you play this game first, like it's fine. Just mainly because like Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger are like related very well, but like you can play one with that. Like I think if you play this first, you would have a slightly harder chance to understand, especially towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I'll just say, so the stories do connect. I will say though, Chrono Cross is a very convoluted story. Even if you're someone who's like actively really trying to pay attention, I think the game was really designed for multiple playthroughs, and in the same way that Chrono Trigger has a new game plus, so does Chrono Cross. And I think if you do play Chrono Trigger, one, I think some of those connections make a little bit more sense, easier, and two, I think you'll maybe get a little bit more out of some of the connections. However, I think if you just were like, hey, I just want to play Chrono Cross because it has a fun battle system and good music, you can get through it fine and still have a very good time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the unique battle system in this game, like even casually. Like there's a lot to like this, like even on like a basic level. And like I liked it in like a sort of like different way. I gotta do this menu. I'll skip the heal wall for this. I don't know if I got the ice blast. Honestly, I did not check. I'm pretty sure I will cope and say I did.
If you didn't,
yeah, there's the backup.
I know where you get a backup.
Yeah.
Because I also wasn't looking for it, to be honest. So this is our big shopping in between. We got some of the elements that we're gonna be needing going forward. We also are selling some stuff. We're going to pick up some weapons that we're going to need. And then we're going to do a little bit more element shopping in Marbule. This is not where we would potentially be short if from doing guard skip. We got to make one more small shop after the next, I guess, mini dungeon that we're about to go to. And that's where we're going to know for sure. We do have backups for money on that as well, but that's why we're maybe skipping things like the hill wall and stuff like that, just so we can try to give us the best shot at not having to do very many backups to make up the money.
Yeah. There's just like, this early game just like has a lot of variance in terms of money, especially if you choose not to like do the guard skip. Like I would say, I guess like most beginners like don't need to do guard skip for like a long time, just because like there's a lot of like speedrun wise, there's a lot of other parts in this game that like will skew your times even more.
Yeah, I think depending on the game, obviously, I think like a minute sounds like, if you got it first try, a minute sounds like a lot of time. But yeah, as Sanjan's saying, if you're a new runner, you could get guard skip and then walk into the next fight, and because you're still learning, lose way over a minute. So it's like very minuscule time in the long run whenever you're new. And it just adds a lot more complication to the money route.
Yeah. And in terms of speedrunning this game, it is like a very, very like a long game. Like for me, it's like the longest game I've ran yet. And I typically run like 3 to 4 hour speedruns. Like that's my preferred length. But they're like, as you've seen by this, like you can do like partial runs. And the way I learned this run was just to like do the run in parts, essentially.
Additionally, we are finally about to get our two other characters we were talking about, where we're about to see what Glenn's strength is and Lena's magic is. However, what you're going to see like as a little bit of an intermediate step here is we're going to actually throw Macha in our party here. And you might be wondering why we're going to do that. And it's mainly because if we actually say no to her right here instead of taking her out on the world map, what she'll decide to do is she will walk slowly over to that platform that's a little bit off screen, jump off. Oh, wow, 17. Jump off and then backwards swim off screen. It's very slow.
Yeah. So Glenn's strength is quite good. And then I'm going to see Lena's here. Magic, that's
11.
Little low, but that's still okay. There's still plenty of fights to go. Hopefully she hits the books, as I say.
Yeah, so 12 is average for Lena here at this point. However, one stat might not feel like that much, but every magic point in the game for a character is actually worth more than every individual strength stat. So like Lena's magic matters a lot. Realistically, by the time we get towards like the fort, we would like for her to be at like 14, 15, and then like 16 by one of the bosses that we're going up to. But obviously, the more that we have, better. You'll see that we're doing a big menu here for equipping stuff that we're going to need. We're putting a lot of the blue elements on Lena. One, because the blue will also help fill the field blue. And additionally, Lena increases to the damage whenever she's a blue innate user using blue elements. And just in general, her magic's higher. So that's why I said she's going to be important going forward. Also, her being a blue innate is going to be a very important mechanic that we can touch on as we get closer to the fort. But yeah, so Lena, she's going to be our magic user effectively. And then we have Surge and Glenn who are going to be dishing out physical. Surge is going to be still our main physical dealer for this little mini dungeon, and then it'll switch.
Yeah, so I did a bunch of menus here and shops to get a couple really important elements. Some of the more important elements are Strength and Eagle Eye, just because like we'll be using physical damage a lot. And then later on, we'll be switching to magical damage as the bulk of our damage dealing. We still got a lot of magic, mainly for Lena, and magic will still be useful. Like, magic you'll see magic being heavily used from here on, after this dungeon.
Also, if chat wants to play another guessing game, coming up here is another big RNG point where we're going to do a little bit of stuff, not to get too ahead of the story here, but basically we're going to get locked underneath this ship, and it is completely random as to which guard has the key. We're going to do a fight to check the first guard. If he has it, then that's great. No extra fights. If he doesn't have it, we have to do another fight, check the second guy. If he doesn't have it, we have to do another fight and check the third guy. So you can lose a couple of minutes. You'll swing one way or another. So if chat wants to guess if we're going to get first, second, or third key, that's coming up pretty shortly.
I predict second key, middle of the road person.
I'll be hopeful. I'll say first.
Yeah, like time-wise, like if you get the first key, like versus the third key, it can skew up to like 2 minutes or so, just because it also varies based on how long the fight is. Like if you have a character, like if Surge has low stats, like you'll be kind of struggling. And yeah, doors are kind of a struggle in this game. The easiest way to handle the door any percent is like you walk to the door and just spam A to open it. You'll see that especially around in this dungeon. That I'll slow down to open doors at some point.
Also what Ray said, yeah, you can technically get the fourth guy, but that is only if you mess up. That's not necessarily an RNG roll. Also, we didn't get to really touch on it, but right before this fight, we actually got to run away from a fight and just skip it. For some reason, in like the speed run, even the full run, this is like the only place that occurs. And we'll do it a couple of times here. Also, we're turning Surge blue because when it puts a blue on the field, it helps Lena's damage. It also helps because Polly is red innate. And now we're filling the whole field blue with this Ice Blast. That means that the Ice Blast does more damage because we have two on the field. It also means that whenever Polly goes to do the red flap that Polly's going to do, it's going to do less damage. Wow, good AP.
Yeah, good AP. So I'll go for some physical hits here.
Yeah. So I also mentioned earlier kind of net color whenever I was talking about field effect. And that's because, like I said, the game works on a versus system. So you can imagine here, when we have 2 blues on the field and a red, that is effectively a +1 blue, because a blue and a red will cancel out.
I didn't see Lena get a magic up, but I saw Surge and Glenn get a strength up. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hopefully Lena will hit the books.
Yeah, also, another mechanic we're taking advantage of here. So, this one can kind of make the game way too easy if you know about this, or if you're someone casually, maybe, I don't know, avoid hearing this, but the only elements in the game that will change based off of where you have them on the grid are attacks and like healing elements. Buffs and turn colors and stuff like that, even though they say like strength and -3 because you have it on level 1, that doesn't affect how long it lasts, that doesn't affect the potency of it or anything. So we take advantage of putting them on level 1, and it lets us get to all of our buffs and stuff quicker.
Yeah, I missed a lot, so I'm just gonna do this. I think the extra should still kill though, or be very close to it. Oh, Chad has little faith. You know, I also low key respect it. The game is cursed and likes to does not like to give keys. All right, 12 magic on Lena.
Yeah, so here we just beat Fargo, and Fargo kind of cheats, and he put us to sleep. And this is where we're going to wake up and do our little key mini game. But realistically, as Sanjan mentioned, the key is only half of the battle in the ghost ship. The ghost ship is notoriously bad for its doors. And the problem is not only are the doors sometimes a pain to get into, but you usually have a ghost that's like chasing you, right? Like as you're trying to get into them, so you're trying to hurry.
Yeah, you'll have to, a lot, like in one of the rooms, like just before like we're able to check for keys, like I had to basically run a ghost around for like 10 seconds or so. And like that, like it's a difficult part of the game to learn how to handle very well.
Additionally, we're about to have fight number 2 where we get to do the weird mechanic I was talking about, where it's like, oh no, we're being attacked by a skeleton. I guess we have to fight our way into it, or fight our way out of it. And then it's just like, nope. And he's gone.
They went to another area because they're just like, oh, okay, that's my headcanon.
Also, Ray did touch on it about the 4th key, the way you can mess up. Part of it is what Sanjan just made sure to do right there, is if you accidentally start checking everybody for the keys, but you did not interact with that door that Sanjan did initially to see that it was locked, you will get 4th key because it will make you check everybody, all the other guys, and then it'll make you come back up here.
I messed up.
I
went up the one too much. That's okay. I'll probably get a second encounter here because I'm going to talk to them, but...
Yeah, I think... So it's like, the thing that makes this ghost dance really, really hard is you're really contained in a tight area, and you have to speak to this guy twice.
I think
you might have to re-speak to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the other way that you could potentially get 4th key, is but Sanjan already knows about it, but like if you were in the middle of talking to that guy who kind of sets the key, if he gets interrupted in his text, it will make it be 4th. I think it might be fine.
Yeah, because I like scrolled through the text really quick. We'll find out.
Yeah, if not, then it will be 4th, which truthfully, if we get 4th key, all of our money issues are gone, so that kind of does solve one problem.
Okay, yeah, these fights can be annoying, so I'll just do this. We have good strength, so I can pretty much just rush here and kill them.
Yeah, and so we did mention that like after this ghost ship, we'll switch to where Glenn is kind of our main damage dealer with their Mount Pyre. And the reason is why we keep Surge here, even if he had a little bit lower strength, is because like we said, the innate color of characters does matter a lot. So like because a lot of these ghosts and skeletons stuff like that are black innate characters, Surge being a white innate character, he has the type advantage on them. So it helps with the damage a lot. Yeah, so now we're going to check second key guy. The reason we do it in this order, like we saw that we passed up this room and then came back to this room.
Really?
Oh, 0.
Yeah, so in regular fights, enemies can act first immediately. Ow.
Yeah, that's like the worst one to see too. But yeah, so we had to go get that chest with the panaceas. So we usually check in the order that we do, like what we did just there.
I should be able to kill because Glenn has good stats, and then yeah, we'll find out. I will risk it just mainly because it's content, and since we have good stats, these fights should go fast.
If it's fourth key, that's okay because it's just more Chrono Cross. More Chrono Cross to watch, more fights
for you all. Where's the fourth key, rather? Is it back at that guy?
No, it's the first guy that you talked to that you set up at the top.
Gotcha.
Sorry, not the first key guy. The guy that you talked to after Ghost Dance.
Yeah. Okay. So I would have to go like all the way back there, which honestly could be worse.
Yeah, it's fine. And like I said, so the good thing here is already by getting third key, we are like guaranteed money fine.
Yeah. I think I can probably finish this off. Okay.
Yeah, I think normally you would kill with Surge's strength that he is right now, but because they did Sword Dance and it put a black element on the field, it takes off 12.5%, which I think is just enough to where you're barely not killing.
Because it did like 100 and
yeah, okay, so it was naturally third.
Classic game. I had to focus it on here because I need to do some precise movement.
Yeah. While Sanjan focused on this is a very specific movement to try to avoid all the enemies here. It requires, a good amount of practice. The big one is coming up in this next room. There are 2 enemies that are on a random cycle, and it's kind of like a game of chicken a lot of times. So you're trying to really... Yeah, nice. Okay.
I think I should be able to get this fast cycle. No, I didn't, because I got trapped in that corner.
Yeah, I think you were on the fast cycle, but it's not. It happens to everybody. Like Chrono Cross, or I guess not even Chrono Cross, PlayStation games a lot of the time, it's easy to get like, I don't know, stuck running in place because you're like clipped on something barely.
Yeah, so this fight is thankfully another fight that we can just escape from. You can fight this fight, like, especially because there's that one ghost if you got first key, because it's a pretty quick fight anyhow, but I got my money troubles are completely gone, so. Yeah, I am leaving Surge at kind of a low HP, which I think should be fine. Because this next boss doesn't really do too much damage-wise.
Yeah, I think for the most part you should be fine. Plus, if it goes like completely, like in the worst case scenario, you do have the revive.
Yeah.
Deadhead's not too bad. But fun fact coming up here, it happened a little bit on Mama Komodo as well. Or not a little bit, it did happen on Mama Komodo. This is like one of the other few bosses it does happen, where even though we mentioned that the first turn of a boss is completely random, this is one of the cases where we know that it resets to at least the minimum that we're expecting, because this transformation right here counts as its first turn.
Alright, so we're just going to do the standard opening here with Strength and then Eagle Eye.
Yeah, so this right here is kind of like, I guess maybe Embargo is kind of the introduction to like the baseline for like a lot of how the fights are structured. But obviously there's some variance going forward, but it's a lot of like, hey, buff up our main guy, whoever's doing damage, whether it's magic or usually it's physical. Then start swinging 3/3s and go from there.
4. Yeah, fun fact. Because is it blackened or is it because it's undead? Kira actually like does damage.
I think it's because it's undead. I was trying to think if there's because if you cured Lynx, I think it would just cure.
Yeah. Two. Now, there should be a pretty standard fight here, unless I really underdamage, but my strength here is pretty decent, so...
Oh, or you could just miss a 99 that we alluded to earlier.
I spoke it in existence. That's unfortunate. That's okay, we'll just do the next strike here and fix my issues.
Yeah, fortunately this fight, as we mentioned earlier, like a bad versus good fight is usually the difference of like one extra turn.
I shouldn't have talked about willed that into existence. Okay, so Lena's still at 12 magic, which is unfortunately not ideal, but it's always something that we can work around. There's just something that like we have to keep in mind for the fight, because a lot of times it also, like, as we alluded to, it means that these fights are pretty much going to be extended, and we have to keep that in mind. It's not going to be as bad in this next section coming up, mainly because we're still dependent on Glenn. We'll be dependent on Glenn for most of the damage.
And also coming up, this is the one part where, like I said, if we did get guard skip and all that, like, is where money could be tight. We need 3,340, which we have plenty because we got third key, but we need to buy this Magnify and Diminish, which will be very useful going forward.
I haven't done that many in a while. I keep forgetting Capsule is the first one.
It's actually a really good marathon backup, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so coming up here, we're about to get it'll be our final one for this category, but we're going to get our third and final tutorial fight from the Shaker Brothers.
Shoot. No strength then.
Yep, and this will be our last kind of bigger menu for this category as well. So we're going to be setting up for going to the next dungeon.
Yeah, you have to fight these menus a lot. It's very fun. Glide, turn blue. Nope, I should
also,
have done
fun
that.
fact.
It's fine.
Fun fact coming up into this fight. I'll touch on it as it's about to happen, but there's one change that they made in the remaster here that I can't believe they did. Caught me by surprise when I first saw it, but it has to do with some of the dialogue that's going to happen here in this next fight. But basically, like I said, the Shaker Brothers here are kind of the jokester tutorial fights of the run. And here they're going to kind of teach us a mechanic that really we don't use in the entirety of the speedrun at all because it's just very slow. But they're going to teach us about trap elements. And so they're kind of having a back and forth. We're going to see Salt use a trap element, trap the element that Pepper's going to use. Pepper's going to be like, okay, so now use it or whatever. And then basically said that he can't. Pepper's going to lose his temper. And unfortunately, they changed the longest text box in the game, like our single text box in the game here, from just straight W's to what, and I can't believe they did it. It was just W's.
Maybe it's just because they could have like bigger text boxes, so you just put it on there. Who knows?
No, it is. Yeah, it makes sense. It's just almost sacrilege to the speed run because we also say W. Yep, and now we can see that we... Oh, good.
So the hit percentages, I believe they're just normalized, but also just like, in a way, like we always notice. Nice crit.
Ooh, nice crit.
We always notice like when we miss, but I have had runs where it's just like, I've had runs, and I know you've had runs too, Handy, where like people, or like you see like 4 or 5 99% misses. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. I think my last run also missed like 499s, and I was like, okay. Sometimes Chrono Cross is just Chrono Cross. Also coming up, at the end of this fight, it's coming up. Normally, we route and expect and mostly always want the common drops. The route expects it's usually the better stuff. This is one of the key exceptions where, like, in terms of speed, the rare drops from Salt and Pepper are something that we're actively looking out for. One of them will be a potential Skygen ring for Lena, which will help her magic a lot. She kind of needs it right now. And the other one will be an extra gauntlet.
No.
And we got both the common.
This is so sad. It's not common, but you know, I would really like for Lena to kind of, you know, hit the books like right here, right now, but it's okay, I suppose.
Did she make 12 there? I didn't see.
She's been 12 for like a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so then technically if she gets the next 3, she could potentially be good for the fort, but we are running out of a little bit of time before we have to kind of rely on a little bit of backup strats for her. But hopefully she kind of gains from here.
Yeah, I can still do the fast strat on this next boss if things go well, because she hits the bare minimum magic, and Glenn is actually pretty good. Pretty good stats.
Also, we did see Sanjan hit the autosave there. Honestly, in most marathons, this is a fight we do save before, because although, I don't know if we really mentioned it, you can run away from every boss and reset at any time. And then in most, like 99% of bosses, you can menu after you run away. This is one of the few fights where it'll pull you back into the fight immediately. So you can still run from it. If you want to heal, you have to come back in, build up levels to do a heal, run, heal in the post-battle menu, and then come back in. So it's really slow. And because this fight is kind of dangerous, because the Fire Dragon has 6 AP, which is really fast, and he hits hard, there's a lot of ways for this fight to kind of go sideways, but luckily it looks like we had a good start. Besides Lena missing.
Yeah. Okay. I just gotta remember I only hit once on Surge to make up for it. I think it might be weird, but I think it should be okay.
And here we're doing the blues because we put the Aqua Beam on the field. We did a little bit of damage because the Fire Dragon is red and 8. We turn blue Glenn. For 1, it turns him blue. He gets the advantage of the blues on the field, and it puts an extra blue on the field. It makes his Fiery Breath do less damage. Truthfully, that's a good example of why we do this strat the way we do. Lena took 117 there. If we wouldn't have had either blue on the field, it would have done about 25% more damage. I don't know that it would have killed because she looks like she has good HP, but it can be the difference between Lena dying or living. She definitely would have been dead here if she didn't.
Yeah. See, 1, 2. So I'll just go straight to Lena using Aqua Ball here. I don't know if this will kill just because Lena has kind of low stats. But we'll see.
It'll be very close.
Yeah. Since I can do a 2-3 here, I think it should kill.
Yeah, I think if Glenn hits both of these, it'll kill.
Nice.
Nice. Good fight.
Yeah, that was a solid fight.
You wouldn't believe it from looking at that one if that was your only time seeing the Fire Dragon, but believe me, that fight can go very sideways.
Yeah, still did not get a magic level, so we're going to be a little bit in the oof levels, but of course that's going to make the speedrun very interesting, and that means we just get to see more fun action and more music in for Dragonia, just because the music in there is peak.
Additionally, Sanjan touched on it a little bit earlier in the second boss fight where we did car salt and pepper. And we were talking about how hard it is to sometimes optimize that particular fight. One of the key reasons is because there are 3 enemies in that fight. So there's 3 different APs to worry about, all kinds of things. This is another example of that where it's like, this fight can be very annoying because there are 3 enemies.
Okay, yeah, I basically have to kind of track everyone's AP. I am paying attention very specifically for Zoa's AP. Wow, that's low. I don't like this, so...
Yeah, so with Zoa having 11 AP, that, I mean, without going into like more advanced stuff, essentially it's like he can roll anywhere between 1 and 11 on his first turn. And him going very early like that kind of is unfortunate because what that means is we are most definitely going to see Geronimo unless he rolls extremely high above what the baseline he could roll as on the second turn.
Yeah, it's likely. I'll probably like try to, actually, I'm gonna do another attack here. I'll likely skip Eagle Eye on Surge. I mean, having Surge use Eagle Eye here. Okay, well, that was really early anyways, so that's fine. Alina's taking a beating. So I'm just gonna attack here.
They do not like Lena for whatever reason right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did the Bush Basher on Zoa because he's yellow innate. We also turned Glenn green. Glenn is already innate green, so that means he'll do more damage to Zoa here. Fortunately, he didn't kill. I guess it might have actually been the difference of Lena having low magic. Yeah. And so hopefully Lena doesn't get attacked here. What we're going to do here is now we're going to start turning the field a different color. We're going to, turn Glenn a different color and put a different color in the field. We're going to turn blue here. This is not because Karsh is red, but it's because we want the Ice Blast to do more damage. Then it kind of compounds where because now we did the Ice Blast, which got a boost from the turn blue. Because Glenn is blue and we just did an Ice Blast, there's a lot of blue on the field. It's a back and forth increase.
I'm going to res Lena because if she... Yeah, I need the res mainly because I want her to get some... for her to be able to get the chance of getting stats.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I guess we didn't really touch on it. So, we did say that every character in the game at every star fight gets a chance at a key stat up. The only way that is not the case, and that is not true, is if they are one of the 3 people in the current party and they are dead when the fight ends.
Girl, I need you to hit the books. It's a struggle out here. She's still 12 magic. So I'll have to keep that in mind as I go through. Some of the fights will be very much extended.
Yeah. Also, coming up here, I think in most casual playthroughs, because I think most casual players will save Kid and thus not gonna go down the route we're going. So there's actually going to be an enemy here that if you played casually, you probably wouldn't be expecting to see. Let's get past this it's a short little cutscene before we do it, but we're gonna get basically an extra boss fight because as I mentioned earlier, the game tries to keep each route split into the same amount of star fights. So because we didn't do a certain part of the game, it's like, oh wait, I need you to get one, a key item, and 2, I need you to get another star increase. So they throw this Dragoon here in there for us to fight.
All right, 1, 1, 2. Okay.
No, Lena.
Lena, girl, please. All right, I'll just do the standard strats here.
Sometimes with Chrono Cross, with a character, when it rains, it pours. So whenever Lena has bad magic, sometimes you're like, okay, this can still be fine if I get good AP, which we did get good AP, but we wanted Lena to hit that so that we could be really far ahead on AP in general, because by doing a 2-3, we're buffering them together before the Dragoon can go, and we'd have a lot of levels before he went even once. But unfortunately, Lena missed, so not only is that worse than if he rolled a little bit earlier and we did miss, or sorry, not only is that bad because we missed, but like it's worse than if we didn't even swing it at all because we have to recover that stamina.
Oh, nice frozen.
Also, we should be able to get through this fight pretty soon. Like he's already in critical health. But funnily enough, most runners, maybe most runners don't see it at all. But if you have a bad enough fight here, this fight gets really dangerous.
It should kill. If not, Surge can poke it to death. Yeah, everyone's magic is like honestly pretty low.
Nice. Okay, we got through it. Also, besides looking at what the key stats we got here we're going to see we got something called the Frog Prince. And this is kind of the final reason as to why Lina is such an important part of the run. We need a blue innate character to be able to use blue summons. And this is the first summon that I think you can get in general, but like that we get in the speed run. And she is a blue innate user, so she's going to be the one to use it. So honestly, besides the key baseline structure of fights that we've been doing going in the past, where it's kind of been like buffing by strengthening and eagle eyeing and doing physicals, this is actually where it starts to become faster to use elements. And that's mainly because we're going to be filling the entire field blue. That's going to be the entire structure of the fight, and then blasting enemies with the Frog Prince summon. So we're going to get a lot of use out of it. It's why Lina's magic is such a key stat, because usually you can get through the fight by just doing a couple of things to fill the field blue, then the Frog Prince will kill. There might be a couple of cases where we have to do some extra stuff like buffs or things after to kill because Lina decided that she didn't want to read books today.
Can I make this? Yeah, I can make this. I hate getting bumped into corners here. Yeah, she did hit 13 magic at least, but I still definitely would like to see more because some of the bosses will be like a little more scary if it extends.
Yeah. We do have some breakpoints that Sanjan was alluding to here where, I mean, on Gloop, really what we'd like to see if we're to do the regular strat is 15 magic Lina, assuming all the, the normal accessories as well. So here we're probably gonna have to do like a little bit of extra stuff where normally like if we were at 15 magic, we could get away with just doing like the Magnify, the Genius, fill the field blue, do an Ice Blast. But now what we're probably gonna do, I mean, obviously you can do other ways as well, but like the common strat is to do a turn red first. So you turn the blue innate gloop into a red color so that the blue does more damage to it.
Yeah, this dungeon is like pretty long dungeon with like a lot of series of like puzzles.
I was gonna mention I was watching for it because I didn't want to also talk it into existence because I've done it as well. It is a Chrono Cross rite of passage as a runner again to hit this tombstone thing to lower this platform. And because when you come off the stairs here right after, if you're not paying attention, like say you're just, you've been doing a couple of attempts already for the day, you can very easily be like, oh, the exit's here, and leave. And then you won't find out till like 3 boss fights from now that you have to come all the way back into this room and hit this pillar and everything like that.
Yeah, thankfully it has not happened to me yet. So in terms of mini level ups, later on, like not in like this context of this run, but later on, like you will naturally get a few, like 1 or 2 mini level ups. Mainly because, like, yes, in some cases later in the game, you have to fight regular enemies to progress.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there's any mini stars in the first 2. Oh yeah, you could technically do it if you had to fight a beach bum in Cape Hal, and I think the other mini star is... Oh, I guess it's not a mini star. You can get a lag star if you have to get 3rd key.
I've seen like mini stars happen with like Glenn and Lina in the Ghost Ship, but not with Surge, I think. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, so it's a slight difference. You can get a lag star, which a lag star is a little bit different than a mini star, although it is after a certain amount of fights between 2 stars. On the Ghost Ship, it's if you have to do 3rd key, so you have to fight 3 fights, and it basically means it's only I think you can only get it on Surge and Glenn, because I believe if you get a lag star, that means you're getting a +2 on the next star.
That's honestly like a really advanced mechanic I didn't even know. There's a lot of little things in this game.
Yeah, most of the time it doesn't pop up. That's why I almost forgot about it.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly in this game, there's just like a lot of information overload. So we're doing our best not to like throw so much information that our like heads just roll. Like even I feel like the top runners just like learn something new or so in this game.
And it's like Sanjan saying, it's a lot to kind of gather all in one sitting, let alone in like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So we're trying to just kind of slowly touch on the main key things, and then it's not even something like I said that most runners even learn like very like super quickly. Like it's stuff that you kind of slowly absorb over time.
Magnify. I haven't done this strat in a while, because I think this is my first time with like Alina this bad.
Oh wow, good AP.
Yeah, like most of the time I had like 14 or 15 strength.
Oh.
Or not strength, but like 13 to like 15, and I usually risk the standard strat. That's rude.
I didn't see the Gloop's first turn. I thought that was his first turn. I was like, wow, he just rolled really high. Yeah, so as you can see above Glenn's name, he has 2 little dots. That unfortunately means he's not only burned, but he's also frozen.
I will actually like do more than extra damage just because I know I'm gonna need at least like an Aqua Beam, and I need a little bit more AP on Lena anyways.
Yeah, this is also a fight. We did mention that like a lot of the strat going forward is that we're going to be filling the field blue and then using Frog Prince, because we cannot use Frog Prince unless the field is entirely blue. And I think by design, the first boss in this that we do here in the run, and I guess you could go and do it in a different order, but like they have this one here who does also do blue field. That really makes getting Frog Prince off kind of guaranteed. It's simple. However, that is not the case after this, and that's why like Sanjan mentioned, I think, way earlier in the run that doing the first few hours of this run, like this category, teaches you a lot about the mechanics, because the other bosses using other colored moves means that you have to count AP and everything like that to consistently get off Frog Prince. So it teaches you how to actually use all those mechanics together.
Yeah, later on there's like slightly more advanced like ish mechanics, but they are like variations of like, I would say, the first 2 hours. I saw Alina get a magic up. So I think we're at 14 now. So we're getting there. She's slowly hitting the books.
Also, I mean, it's probably been seen here and we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but as you can see, some of the fun, I think, of the Chrono Cross run is that it essentially is just like a boss rush mode. Like including here, we're just going boss to boss to boss.
And honestly, the music in this area specifically is really, really good.
Yeah, this is some of my favorite music in the game.
It's my least favorite area.
Yeah, I don't think you're going for it. I don't go for it. I don't think most people go for it. There is I'm just going to talk about it just for the information of it all, but there is technically a like 4.5 second skip you can do here, but it's pixel perfect, and like the risk to reward is just not worth it, because you can kind of stuff yourself in the top left corner there where the sidebot's at, and if you kind of like tap circle to kind of fit in there pixel perfectly, you can have the sidebot pass you up, so you don't have to wait for him to get all the way down the stairs before you pass him. Like I said, it's 4.5 seconds. I timed it. It's not. Risk to reward is not worth it, because if you get caught, you're just trapped. You have to fight your way out.
Yeah, so I know on PS or PSX, you can kind of see like the outline of those enemies on the screen, but on PC you can't really, unless I guess you had really specific settings. So like they can be very annoying to dodge.
Yeah, in PSX, like you said, they're translucent. The thing is that on PSX, even if you emulate it, it looks like what it does here on RDE. And I believe because RDE is In short, it's a emulated. It's like a program running an emulator, running the Japanese version of the game, just translated to English. So what that does is because it's emulating it still, it gets rid of all the translucentness. They're just completely invisible.
Yeah, so this fight is where like I had to really pay attention, like because Gloopy, or I like to call a giant Gloopy. Gloopy is like a little generous, really.
Oh wow, Lena.
Oh, I'm actually gonna restart this. I don't want to fight AP on this. That is
Yeah, I don't blame you. This is a fight. Like, this is actually, I think it used to be considered, and I think I still kind of consider, like, as a new runners, this is like the biggest hurdle to get past, because this is the one that will make you learn AP and stuff like that. And that's what Sanjan was just saying, is that she didn't want to deal with it at all. Because he does green elements like body press, like he just did, we're going to do our first turn here of setting up the entire field, like with, entire field, setting up all of our buff elements and weak-minded and stuff like that. We're going to get ready to do Magnify after his second turn, and then we need to fill the entire field blue and summon Frog Prince before he gets his next turn, which is, he could roll as low as 11 AP. So it makes you have to count, and you have to deal with like juggling your staminas, you know, filling the entire field blue, and then also, you know, counting AP. So it's really a lesson in a lot of the mechanics of the game.
So this should be standard, but of course people can miss, and it's a very scary thing when you don't have much AP and people miss. Okay, I had to do this like kind of uniquely.
Yeah.
There should still be standard though.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might lack damage at the end, worst case scenario, but I can be able to like hit some extra things.
Yeah. Yeah, like Sandy is saying, like doing the Frog Prince is kind of like the big thing. Like whenever you're learning it, or whenever you're doing the run, like just being able to get the Frog Prince off is the big key thing. Like, because once you use those blue elements to fill the field blue, you can't use them unless you run again from the fight. Like they're locked out. So just making sure that you get the Frog Prince off is the key thing. And then if for some reason this doesn't kill, he'll go again, and it's a little bit slow for sure, but you just need to kind of do a little bit of chip damage on the backside.
That was pretty high damage, yes. So I really want to see like more magic on Lena. 15? Nice.
So that 15 magic is kind of a halfway break point for the next fight here. 16 is kind of the full break point to where like the good version of the fight, we're gonna try to do skip a move called Kissy Wissy. It depends on the AP start of the fight. It also depends on hits and misses. But at 15, Frog Prince can low roll, but it also can do enough damage to skip Kissy Wissy. At 16 though is usually, I think it's like 90-ish percent, 95% chance that the range covers killing. So we would like her to see it be at 16 for more security, but we could get lucky at 15 and still skip Kissy Wissy.
Yeah, if we didn't kill, like, we would mainly have to do, like, just a lot of physical damage, because it's hard to, like... It's hard to do... like, your Magic 2 Son of a Gun doesn't deal a lot of damage, and I think, like, in my experience, like, I found that you just spam, like, small hits, because it has really low HP. It has 383 HP, like... It'll go down like after a little bit more. Yeah,
if you don't kill with Frog Prince, I think it's faster just to kind of swing with Glenn, just to kind of like tap a little bit of damage after. Because you can do Aqua Beams. I see people like when they're first learning, they'll try to do an Aqua Beam on the other side of it, because you know intuition tells you the whole field is blue, might as well, or basically was blue, might as well do another blue element. But the Aqua Beam will do like 1 to 3 damage or something.
Yeah. Yeah, if Son of a Gun does Kissy Wissy, like you have to do a lot of extra steps, and you lose a pretty noticeable amount of time just because extra animation and a lot of like extra steps, especially if it hits. because the Kissy attack puts your members to sleep. That's also why we had to grab the Panacea early on in the Ghost Ship.
So the thing that we're looking for here, outside of, like I said, whether or not Lena's Frog Prince actually does kill, the setup that we're looking for here is we need Son of a Gun who has a baseline at APF 7, meaning they could roll anywhere between like 1 up to 7 or so. We need Son of a Gun to roll higher than 3. Or sorry, we need to roll higher than 2. We need him to roll 3 or higher, because we need Surge to do 1-1 to build up his levels to 2, and then we're gonna throw 3-3 with Lena if he doesn't, and we just need Lena to hit one of them. Because he has 7 AP, we have to get that at least so that we can, have enough space to fill the entire field blue and do the Frog Prince after. Nice. Okay, so half a way done. And Lena did it. All right, so now it's just kind of up to whether or not we get Frog Prince off. I mean, whether we get Frog Prince, whether Frog Prince kills. Also, a fun mechanic here. Turn blue is a fast blue element. Like I said, other ones only do like 1 to 3 damage anyway, so it's not like that big of a deal. So it might be weird to think like, why are you turning the Son of a Gun blue if you're doing a blue element on him? That kind of goes against the whole premise of the mechanics we were talking about earlier. But there is another mechanic where if you turn a character or an enemy a certain color and then turn them that same color again, it undoes it.
I'm predicting 365 damage.
I'm going to say 341. Oh.
You're close.
Yeah.
I need to do a lot of damage. I might defend here. Or just like defend and like spam hits with Glenn. Nice miss.
Nice miss.
So.
Yeah, I think it's close. I think he's probably within 15.
Yeah. So I'll just defend here twice. And then spam once. Nice.
Oh, 6. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I was playing it safe. Yeah, so that's not too bad. We barely low rolled, which was like unfortunate, but in reality, like when you do your hits, like you get like an extra like 20 or 30 physical damage, and then before like your Frog Prince.
Yeah, and after Son of a Gun, we have one more fight coming up where Lena is kind of our main carry, and then it turns back over to Glenn. Unfortunately, also coming up between that is actually, I think, one of the hardest single dodges in the entirety of the game, where we're going to be there's going to be a Dragoon on the stairway, and it's RNG where he spawns at and like kind of walks at, and if he is kind, it can be kind of a free skip, but most of the time he's blocking it, and it's like very hard to do the single dodge.
You had to like walk around, like kind of like stagger him, and then just like turn around. Like in my experience, like especially in RDE, like it's just fast, but it's like only a little bit slower to take the encounter and then escape. But in like PlayStation, where like the encounters are like a lot slower, like getting to the battle is just like a lot slower. Like it's much better to like try to do the dodge. Oh wow, okay, that actually somehow worked out. I'll take that.
And this is what we're talking about. Oh, I thought he gave it to you.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I don't know if I can get through this. Like, if he's blocking my way.
I think so. I think if you hold left here, you should be able to squeeze through. But yeah, as Sanjan was saying, that is something to take into account for sure. As a slight difference between RD and PSX is that like load times are faster. So I think on PSX we assume that if you get into an encounter and don't get 0 rolled, you just immediately run away. You lose about 16-ish, 17-ish seconds. That's, I wouldn't say halved, but it's probably like, what, 10 seconds or something in
It's
RD.
11 seconds in RD.
Okay.
Like 10.5, 11 seconds, like RD. So like, and I think when you do the dodge, it takes like 5 or 6 seconds or so. Because like you have to constantly run around.
Also in this, actually, I'm going to let you get through it before I explain it. I'm not going to talk this one into existence. I usually have commentator's curse whenever it comes to Chrono Cross. So after we get into phase 2, I'm going to explain a different mechanic here.
All right. Good AP so far, I should say.
Yeah, so we're doing our initial setup. We're trying to help Lena out again.
Yeah, this boss has 2 phases to it.
Yeah, so this Ice Blast should proc it, yep. And now for everybody's favorite creepy boss.
Does it turn from red innate to black innate? Or is it always like red innate?
I cannot remember, to be honest. Also, it did not happen. So we've talked about, or kind of at least alluded to, that bosses so every enemy in the game, bosses, regular enemies included, their very first turn, we don't know what their AP is. However, regular enemies can roll a 0 and start the fight. Bosses at least are guaranteed to at least have 1. They will not start the fight. However, because of the way the game treats phase 1 and phase 2 bosses, you can get 0 rolled by a phase 2 here. So whenever we transition, he could immediately go, which makes the fight very awkward, very, very awkward. You do not want to get 0 rolled by phase 2 Bunyip, if at all possible. And the reason that is because if you look at like the memory values while the game is running, like testing out AP and stuff like that, what you'll see is that phase 2 of this boss, even though it's not on the field, is kind of counted as a separate entity. So from the very beginning of the game, it also starts at an AP value, and as you're using attacks and stuff like that, it's also counting down. And so if it just so happens that it lands on 0 at the exact same turn that you also do Ice Blast and proc phase 2, he will go. Also, nice, pretty standard fight.
Yeah, it was a good fight. Mainly my experience in this fight, Surge always misses his double 2s, and then I had to do like a bunch of weird stuff after, but that was actually a very good standard fight. So I gotta check Glenn's strength here real quick to see if he's... Nice, 24 is good.
Nice, and so even though Lena was kind of struggling with magic through the rest of it, Lena at least did her job well enough. Kind of 07 to Lena being the main carry of the run so far. Now we're handing the reins back over to Glenn for the remainder of the category, really.
So I'm gonna heal the burn on Glenn real quick. Yeah. So like we went like even in these like 2 hours, we went through a whole bunch of bosses, and we learned like you learn like a whole bunch of mechanics.
Oh, this guard is being a jerk.
Yeah. Just got through.
So what we just saw there, why that's actually kind of scary, is we have kind of talked about that. You can run away from every fight in the game, but the time loss really can kind of occur. It's less so in this category, but like later on in part of the full run, there's a place where it matters. But right there, it almost mattered where like when you get into a fight and you run away, you get like iframes or invincibility frames where you won't get pulled immediately back into the fight. However, they're not global invincibility frames. They're only invincibility frames from the enemy that you just ran from. So if you are sandwiched between 2 enemies, like for example, that guard that was blocking the way blocked you from getting, or blocked Sanjan from getting on the pathway, and that bat was right behind her, if they would have stacked on top of her, we would have had to fight our way out of one of them. We would have had to fight one, it will drag us immediately into the other one, run from that one, and then leave. So you just don't want to get sandwiched between 2 enemies because they can get, that's where it gets kind of scary in terms of time loss.
You gotta see if we can get the, it doesn't matter like for this category, you gotta see if we can get the famous candy drop.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I didn't want to commentators curse this one either, but because the category is ending shortly after this, it's not as big of a deal. Or it's really not even any big a deal because we don't get to use it. But coming up here, we did talk about on the salt and pepper fight that in most cases, we're always looking for the common drop. This is one of the key examples of it where we talked about how...
Okay.
1 AP. We talked about how we got that item called the Dragoon's Gauntlet early on from Karst. It is +3 to our strength. The common drop here from Viper is another gauntlet, 90% chance to get it. However, the 10% is a Mithril Mail, where sure it's more defense, but like for the speedrun, it is very bad. You're basically -3, well 2 because you're gonna put a different item on, but -3 strength from not having that item for the entirety of the run that the run expects. I didn't name it the handy drop. Community named it the handy drop after me. After several like really great paced runs, I got 10% drop, 10% drop, 10% drop like 5 or 6 times in a row. And so it got dubbed the handy drop like several years ago. So we definitely do not want to see that. Well, I guess actually, never mind. It doesn't matter here. But I keep forgetting that we're just doing the link support Dragonia.
Yeah. Okay, I underdamaged a bit. Yeah, so I went for the strat just because I got basically 1 AP. Should be... Okay.
Yeah, I think he should.
That should be good.
Well, let's see. I'm just curious now.
Okay.
We got it. We got the
It's
common.
a normal drop. Yeah, so it's not, of course, not relevant now, but like if you had got the rare drop, like you would have to basically sort of like remember, because for example, like a lot of the run assumes you get that, like you'd have to like keep that in mind because you're basically whatever your strength is -2 or -3, and then especially if Surge has like lower strength later on, like it can be really scary. Oh, everyone's got low AP today.
Okay, at least he attacked Lena. But yeah, both Viper and Lynx went really early.
There's this. Strengthen. Eagle Eye. Yeah, I also have to be careful here because like usually like you have your first character like in the middle so that you can just like spam like strengthen or like Eagle Eye on said character. But since like Glenn is not like the first character in the slot, like oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oops. That's fine. Wow.
Yeah.
He's out for what today? I respect that. So I kind of did this fight wrong. It's fine.
I think it's actually a really good example of like things that happen in Chrono Cross is that like not only is it about taking advantage of the good things that happen, but it's very easy to have something slightly go wrong. Like I think Sanjan, I think it was just like a miscount of 1 AP, which does happen. It happens throughout the entirety of the run, but part of the run is like recovering this, which we should be able to.
Yeah. Next turn, I'll
he's already in crit.
just... Yeah, by the way, time's coming up very soon here since we are only doing a specific first part. So 1. This is just to put more white on the field so Glenn can do more damage. And 2, 3 with Lena. Like, yeah, a lot of this is just like also recovering from awkward situations that you can put yourself in.
And nice.
Alright, and then we'll just call time right now.
GG.
That was
good run, GG.
yeah, this was we got like not the most ideal stats, but honestly this game like played very, very nice to me. Like aside from the keys, but you basically like you just play your hand with the cards that you were dealt. So I hope you all enjoy this sort of introductory run of Chrono Cross. There's of course a lot more because the total run of this is 6 hours, but as you see here, like even in the first 2 hours, there's a whole bunch of action, and like this run is just like extremely involved and very satisfying to learn. Like when you really like put time into like investing into like just getting better and understanding the mechanics of this run. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching the run. Thanks to GDQ for hosting the AAPI Heritage Month celebration. Support Asian speedrunners and those of the Asian diaspora. And yeah, thanks to Etchy for hosting. And thanks to Super Handy so much for just like commentating, because he's a top runner and he knows so much about the game. And the game is just like extremely involved, and there's just a lot of things in this run to explain. So like, even in like you saw in like these first 2 hours, there's a lot going on. So really, really big thank you to Handy for commentating the run. This run went pretty darn well, despite it, and it was like really nice. And honestly, like in this run, like being nice is the game being nice to you is a lot to ask for.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. Thank you for having me.
And do you have anything else handy?
If you guys want to see more Chrono Cross, go follow Sanjan. Sanjan's chasing sub 6. So that's a really big goal for a lot of runners.
Yeah, the game has not been nice to me, but yeah, that's, like eventually the game will be nice to me. But yeah, also like if you want to join their Discord, they are very helpful, and they help a lot of new runners, like because this game can be quite a bit. So like huge thank you and a little bit of a shout out and a sneak peek. If you want to see the full run, Handy's running this at RPG Limit Break, the full category. And there's and he has a lot of like really fun stuff that he's going to show off, like more than what you saw here. This was just a preview of the fun to come.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for putting together a sweet run of Chrono Cross links at Fort Draconia. We have plenty more Asian speedrun awesomeness coming up. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we'll be back in just a little bit with some Stardew Valley, so stay tuned.